especially when Paul George and Kawhi are clicking on all cylinders. Clippers win for the 9th time in 11 games. That's like so many wins. After the game, PG on the state of the team.
You know, we've been battling a lot. Guys in and out. For us, it's just staying healthy. But we got a deep roster. Adding Rondo helped us. Adding Cuz late in our push helped us. You know, I think, you know, we're starting to build our identity. When we get on this floor, we know who we are.
We got Chris Broussard back with us. So, Broussard, what do you make of Paul George saying we're starting to build our identity after the win over the Suns last night?
One thing I have to give Paul George, Jenna, is he's transparent. I mean, he talked about his mental struggles in the bubble. He's talked about them not having an identity. Like, I give him that. He's open and honest and transparent. I think what he means is a few things. We know they had, I think, 3 major problems going into this season and even early in the season. One was defensively. I mean, they were a mediocre defense for most of this season, which is ridiculous when you have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on the wings and even some of their other players. Since the All-Star break, they have been a top 5 defense in the league, 5th in the league. So that's where they should be. So that's one thing I'm sure he's referring to. Defensively, we're getting things together. Secondly, they needed leadership from a player perspective. That's not Kawhi. It's just not who he is. It's probably not Paul George either. But it is Rajon Rondo. And George came out and said that about a week ago. Now Kawhi doesn't have to try to be something he's not. Same thing for some of the other players. So you got the leadership thing. And then thirdly, they were a poor team in the clutch. Down the stretch of games, they struggled. They were one of the worst in the league because they didn't have a point guard and a playmaker to set the table. They were just putting it in Kawhi and PG's hands and saying, go. And now they've got Rondo to fill that void for them. Last night, Rondo goes for 8 points in the 4th quarter. In a 5.5-minute stretch, he had 5 points, 3 assists, which broke the game open. They went on a 19-10 run at that point that turned a close game into a rout. And so that's what those 3 things is what Paul George is talking about, and Rajon Rondo deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I want to stay on something you talked about. You mentioned earlier, you talked about his mental health and PG-13, right? This isn't the same team that entered the bubble last year. This team is different. And this is a big deal. Sometimes on television, you know, when we talk about our athletes, we talk about the physical so much. We never really lean into the mental and the mindset and that type of makeup. That's the most important thing. We're talking about 80% of sport, 80% of life is mental, 20% is physical. But we don't spend a lot of time developing our brain and training our mind. We don't do it. Paul George, in the bubble, what you said, Chris, he came out fully transparent and said, I'm talking to a therapist right now. There's some things I'm dealing with. And since then, we've seen Paul George, when healthy, play really well. To me, the question marks around this team is all about the stuff off the field. It has nothing to do with, off the court. It has nothing to do with really, truly, like real basketball. These are things that you can handle, you know, in the locker room. These are things that you can handle at the table, sitting down with your coaches and your teammate. This team didn't want to play last year. Everybody in the NBA, the people that I heard when I was sitting back as a fan and I wasn't broadcasting, I heard everybody pick the Clippers for the most part. Everybody said the Clippers was a team to beat. And then all of a sudden the global pandemic hit and they didn't want to enter the bubble. And then you got Paul George, PG-13, playoff P, all that stuff. Well, what if him sitting down and dealing with whatever he was dealing with is the answer? Because that is the thing when we talk about basketball is the big 2. Can you guys get it done on the court? Well, now you're seeing Paul George play at a high level. They're 10th in defense. They're 2nd in offense. They beat the 2nd hardest team in the NBA in the Suns. The Jazz are there, but we say we can't talk about the Jazz because nobody trusts them. Nobody believes in the Jazz. So this team, what they're showing you is that they're the best team in the West right now because the Lakers are beat up and banged up. So I really love what the Clippers are doing right now. You hit on it, chemistry, leadership. They're checking the boxes. And another thing that you didn't miss in Chris is load management. They're playing basketball when healthy. So Nick, I love what I'm seeing out the Clippers, and I think this team is dangerous and everybody needs to pay attention.
And for all those reasons, that's why this year, and this will shock Broussard, but this year, I really do believe that if, let's assume health and nothing, no bad luck, that if everything breaks right, I really do believe the Clippers can make their first conference finals in team history. And that's a good trajectory. You go from second round exit, third round exit. Like they are better than they were last year. Now, are they good enough to win the West? I don't think anywhere close. But I do think they can make the first conference finals ever. I also think last night, I hope people stayed up to watch because that was awesome. It was, I think, when we showed it, the best dunk of Kawhi's career. You never see that type of dunk, ferocious dunk on someone in traffic. I thought it was the best dunk of his career. And he did it on True Center. You had Patrick Beverley doing Patrick Beverley things, annoying Chris Paul, getting kicked out. You had TNT experimenting with something they should experiment with more, which is they muted Reggie Miller for almost a full quarter. I applaud that. Try working that out a few more times. And on top of that, and Wilds, I know this was your favorite part, and this is why the Clippers can be better than last year. You had playoff Rondo show up. And you might say, well, Nick, it's not the playoffs. But it kind of was a playoff-ish game. Two of the hottest teams in the West. They're competing for seeding. Yep. It's a big spot. And this was the first time Rondo has had a great game since the playoffs last year. For the Hawks, or his first couple games with the Clippers, first time Rondo's been great was last night. And it's maybe not a coincidence, Wilds, that it happened in the biggest game he's yet played for the Clippers. So if all that happens, I do think they're good enough to lose to the Lakers in 6 in the conference finals. I do think they're good enough to do that.
But if they don't, and you're on this show saying, oh, I can't believe playoff Rondo got me again. He delivered me a championship. Now he's taking one away. It's what happens. This wasn't the playoff Rondo movie, but this was the trailer. The Clippers were plus 24 when Rondo was on the floor, and he had season highs. He had 19 minutes, 9 assists, 15 points. Look at him, 3 for 4 from 3. And we always talk, Broussard, about how smart he is and how he makes things happen. Take a listen to what he said after the game about one specific play.
Hey, Rajon. There was a play in the fourth quarter, I believe, where it looked like you called out Phoenix's elbow series as they were walking up the floor, and then you guys blew up the whole set. If you can, what was it that you saw that essentially tipped you off to it?
I mean, well, they yelled it. Number 3 on the other team yelled it out quickly and loud, and I just kind of reverted back to my teammates. It's the same play they ran the night before against Utah.
Here it is. CP3 bringing up the ball. Ronald's like, hey, guys, I know what play they're going to run. Watch this. Let's get a turnover out of it. Clippers respond. Next thing you know, the ball's going out of bounds. This is the things that usually don't show up on the stat sheet for Rondo, but show up on the stat sheet for the Clippers. It's why he's such a great leader, and he's going to end up beating the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. On to Weird and Wonderful.
Oh,
you can't respond to that one.
Wow.
Why?